I mean, it's the thing of like, if anything is free, you are the product, right? So
Hmm.
if there's an application that is free to use, like you are being sold or manipulated in some type of way because like these are for-profit companies. Like Meta is
Right.
a for-profit business. So a big part of the conversation that we're having with our clients that are small business owners, we're helping them with social media is like, okay, we saw with TikTok that if you had all your eggs in the TikTok basket, that basket falls and drops. Granted, it came back in like 12 hours, but
Hmm.
that's now a very real threat. Like just like you wouldn't invest all your investment in one stock, right? Or you
Hmm.
wouldn't, if you were trying to like eat healthy, only eat carrots. Like that just isn't going to work for you. Like we've got to diversify your sources of income, just like you diversify anything else, right? So it is that like taxing thing that if you popped off on TikTok, that now you have, yeah, you do have to pivot. But also, like, who's to say that that audience even is really going to, if TikTok does go away, that they're even going to be back on Instagram? That's not really guaranteed either because
Yep.
Mark Zuckerberg goes on Joe Rogan and says all this bullshit about like, oh, how workplaces have become too feminine and we need to bring back masculine aggression in business and his chain and his like poodle perm hairdo. And you're just like, ah, someone posted, I saw a meme I saw that was like, I knew someday that nerds were going to take over the world, but I didn't know they'd be this fucking lame. Greetings and welcome back to the Kiss My Aesthetic podcast. I'm so excited to have Phoebe on the podcast today. Welcome, Phoebe.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, it's been a long time since we've chatted on the podcast. Like you and I DM each other all the time, which is great. But for anyone who doesn't know you, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and who you help?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Phoebe, and I'm the owner of Pandr Design Co. I'm a creative here in San Diego alongside Michelle. And what do I do? Paint a lot of murals, paint a
Mm-hmm.
lot of murals and graphic design stuff, and also share a lot of artist resources because I'm anti-starving artists and want everyone to make that money.
Absolutely. That should be like the undercurrent like theme of the whole podcast because I think every guest we end up talking about this of like being a creative doesn't mean that you should struggle or suffer. How did you find your way into muraling specifically and graphic design? Because I know you have like a pretty creative family, right?
I do. Yeah. My dad does some woodworking and well, yeah, it's funny because he's a social worker or was a social worker. They're retired now, their parents. And then my mom is a nurse. But yeah, they've always just were creative peeps growing up, photography and woodworking and very encouraging
Mm-hmm.
of my artwork. So that was great. And yeah, because not a lot of parents are, it's scary when a kid says they want to go to art school. And I wanted to go to full blown art school. And that's what I did. And studied graphic design. Upon graduation, I applied to every single job in California. Just had the fantasy of doing that. And I ended up at a job in Vista, which is like northern San Diego. And I was designing cycleware and like their catalogs and all the other stuff, like hang tags, things that go along with that. And then went to another company designing bike helmets, the fenders, again, like catalogs, any graphic design merch things that they needed. Lasted there about like 2 years. And I was like, I need to get off the computer. Like I want to work for myself. I painted one mural. I think I convinced them to let me paint a mural in our office while on the clock for them getting
There
me
you
a
go.
salary. Yeah. And then painted an electrical box in Cardiff. And then,
Right.
yeah. And then another friend needed a mural at her office and it kind of just took off from there. And that was 2016. So that was the beginning of social media moments, or backdrops, Instagram backdrops. And so it kind of just spiraled from there. So that's a lot of what I do. And then, just beautify walls for other reasons, but a lot of them are for social media.
Of course. I think that must have been how I found my way to your page originally was I think your Liberty Station mural and seeing it and being like, who are these girls? And like following you and then figuring out, and then you guys had done some call out for like getting extra helping hands. And I was like, all right, like I'll go. Let me see what this is about. And I think it might
Yeah.
have been right around that like 2016, 2017
Right.
time frame,
Right.
which is so long ago now. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
How has the industry like changed or grown, or how has your business offerings like changed or grown since those early days?
Yeah. I've kind of gone in waves of different things. So when I first left my corporate job, I thought I was just going to be doing freelance graphic design. And I still do that kind of work, but it's really, really gone more mural world. Like 80% of my income in 2024 was from murals, which is awesome, but also kind of scary. Like, putting too
Mm-hmm.
much of your eggs in one basket, slash my body hates me. So I've always been like, oh, I'm going to get back to my roots. I'm going to get back to doing branding and stuff. But yeah, it's hard because, you put out there what you attract. And so, 2025, I'm going to be experimenting with more like, as I always say, like more art licensing and branding and product design kind of stuff. But
Right.
when I first left, I was doing hardcore lettering, like lettering on everything. And yeah, I'd say just like a lot of branding. And
Mm-hmm.
actually back then I was doing chalkboards too, like uh for a lot of them for Red Bull, like meeting
Uh-huh.
just our different promos for bars around town. And yeah, I don't no idea how I paid my rent on those, but that was nice.
What an evolution, huh? One of the things
Uh,
that I think, talking about like diversifying your business, that I always look up to you, that I think you've done particularly well, is a lot of your like artist education and cold pitching and email templates and like really building out like the resources part of the business. I guess I do it in a kind of different way via this podcast and the Facebook group and other things, but talk to me a little bit about that side of it. Like what prompted you to create all these resources? Because technically you fall into the trap of like, am I educating my competition? How do you view it
yeah.
and in that way? Maybe you don't view it that way at all. But what's your approach with kind of helping your audience? I've got to imagine people are just up in your DMs, like, how are you doing this?
Yeah, I actually had a friend the other day ask this. It's like, why is your mural pricing guide free? And I
Mm,
was like, duh, because I want everyone to be charging enough because it helps everyone. Like rising tides lift
true.
all boats. So yeah, I have no issue with sharing that information. I want everyone to be charging more. At, like a lot of the different groups of the artist community, like most people are undercharging. So
Mhm,
if we just talk about money more, it would be like, yeah, I'm anti gatekeeping. When I
mhm.
was starting out, there was just like no information out there. And I told this story the other day to someone else too. And it was like, I didn't have to do this. I was sneaky. I made a fake email address for a fake business and emailed a bunch of my quote unquote competition or like people that I idolized and
Uh-huh.
just to find out like
Uh-huh.
what they were charging because pretending to be a business that needed a mural and the numbers were just all over the board and I was like okay
Wild.
cool so like people that I idolize don't know what they're doing either so it was like good and bad like okay I'm not the only dum dum but at the same time yeah like what's going on in this industry so I'm like can we start a union like what's
Right.
going on here yeah so I just wish that information was there when I was starting out and so if I can make anyone's lives easier then that's great.
Totally. And to be honest, that was kind of the origin of this podcast in the first place was I wanted to go similar to you, talk to the people that I perceived that were doing what I was doing, but either had more experience or were doing it better than I was. And I wasn't going to be a client of theirs and they weren't going to be a client of mine, but I just like wanted to ask them questions. And so I was
Yeah.
like, will you come on my podcast for an hour and I can like ask you stuff? Like, and it just kind of
Yeah.
worked out, it works out from there. One of the things you've been super vocal about since the beginning is kind of like talk about like uplifting the industry and calling out things that are just unfair. Makes sense that your parents are like social worker and you said a nurse, right? This
Hmm.
makes this tracks. Is kind of like is making sure that artists are taken advantage of. And I think that again to the like starving artist kind of stereotype or that if you have a skill set you shouldn't therefore make loads of money even though you and I are both saying like in every other industry that exists. Um
Right.
art contests can be super predatory and super discouraging, especially if you're trying to get your name out there or you get like dangled this carrot of like you're going to get so much exposure. I know this is like a hot button topic for you, so I'd love for you to tell me like your thoughts, your grievances, your complaints about why this is so damaging to the creative community.
Yeah. You're like, go off, Phoebe. Go off.
Please take it.
Well, I'd be curious to hear too, like how, like, do people still tag you in that kind of stuff, like branding
Yeah,
competitions? Mhm.
yeah, I see it occasionally. I feel like with branding, it's still understood as like this is an investment for the company that's going to bring me ROI. It's not so much of like an open free for all, I guess. But my biggest gripe for a long time was Fiverr. Is like someone telling me like, oh, well, why would I spend $10,000 on branding with you if I could go to Fiverr and get a logo for $5? And I'm like, then you're not my ideal client. Like, no worries. Like, if that's where you need to go, that's like, I don't even have the time to educate you on why those things are so drastically different. But I know with murals, particularly in public artwork, this is such a parasite in that space.
Yeah, it's really gross. And for a while, I was really going after people and dragging or companies that are being predatory on social media and, just dragging them in the comments or on my stories and calling them out hard. And then I've taken a little bit of a break because it does get exhausting. Like I was telling someone else, like it's like playing whack-a-mole. So I'll pick and choose who I go after these days. If anything, I'll go and like everyone else's like negative comments on the post or something. But the most success I've had is actually emailing the company and like taking it off social and approaching them like a grown up person and not just like
we're maturing,
screaming on the internet. Yes, that's what 34 does to you.
Yeah.
Mature woman. But yeah, so emailing companies and then introducing myself. Hi, I actually care about this industry. This is why X, Y, and Z, like the reasons this is messed up. Would you be open to changing it to this structure or like hopping on a call and discussing it further? So I did have a company like 2 years ago. It was a fairly large company and they were open to hopping on a call and paying me a consulting fee and teaching them how to restructure it. So like that was like cherry on top, best scenario that could happen. So that was a success. Like, that doesn't happen every day, unfortunately, but it is important for us all to stand up and say something and educate people, but kind of have to like call them in versus call them out.
Makes sense.
Is what I think is going to work better.
I mean, what are some of those reasons that like, does it just come from like a naivete or does it come from just an ignorance or is just the first thing is like, well, we don't have the budget for that? Like, what's the main objection to like going through a more legit way of getting a mural for your business or your organization, your school, whatever?
I think it's a mixture of all those things, probably. Yeah, budget, I'm sure being the number one driving force, but I just hear the excuse like, oh, it's just supposed to be a fun thing. Like, this is fun. And like, yeah, but this is also our livelihoods.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there's a contest for, I don't know if it was a floor mural or a sidewalk, some sort of mural in Barrio recently I saw. And like someone commented and said like, hey, I don't see any payment for this. Like, what's the prize money? And the person putting on the contest was like, oh, it's not about money. This is about like bringing something beautiful to the community. And it's just like, ugh, barf.
Yeah.
Like they're never going to get it. They're never. So you got to pick and choose, who you argue with too. Cause some people are it's just like, you're just going to be wasting your time.
Is there an instance in your opinion where doing quote unquote like free art is okay? Like, do you feel like there is this kind of like there is a middle ground somewhere?
Yeah, definitely. So I just did a blog post about this. So how to donate a mural to an organization that you care about and, how to make it feel good for both parties. So I just donated, I'd say it was like $14,000 worth of what I would normally charge and letting the client know that $14,000 of work is what it would have cost. And then if they can write you a Google review or Yelp review, ways to just, make sure there's some sort of publicity for your business out there.
Sure.
And then still having a contract, still having like a set number of revisions. I try to do no revisions when it's for a donation because it's something that you want to be really happy with and having in your portfolio. So you don't want this end up like going off the rails and being something that you hate and don't want to display anyways. Thankfully, like it hasn't happened to me, but so all those things like that'll be worth it to do a free project if it's an organization that you care about. But be careful about like the word nonprofit because not all nonprofits are created equally. Mm-hmm. So do your research.
Definitely do your research. Make sure they are vetted. On your point about portfolios, how often are you taking on work that feels like it pushes you be like outside of your normal skill set versus stuff that you're like, oh my God, I could do this in my sleep? Because I'm finding that the longer I'm in business, I kind of like struggle with like I know we can do service-based entrepreneur branding like all day long. Like that's fine. You know what I mean? Like we're good at it. Everybody's happy. Like I can do it in my sleep. But what I really want to be doing is like hospital, like hotels and restaurant groups and all these things, right? So like
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a misalignment, and it's hard to say no to a paying job. And I've got to imagine you're in the same boat, right? Like you've built a reputation, you built a business. Someone
Right.
comes to you and you're like, God damn it, I don't want to do this because it gets me farther from the thing that I actually want to do. How are you
Yeah.
grappling with that these days?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, because you have to take on the work to feed yourself and your team. And yeah, you have quite a few people employed at this point. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not just, your
Right.
salary, it's other
Right.
people's livelihoods. Yeah.
But it's that balance between like, am I going to keep doing the job that I know I can do, even if I'm bored? Or am I going to
Right.
take a risk, take a big swing on something that might pan out, but also might not? Maybe I'll quote a little bit less to try to break into an industry, do some networking. If
Totally.
that could possibly be not the safest move, you know?
Right. Yeah. So how much am I doing that? Let's
Or do you ever get
see.
a client come through
Yeah.
where you're like, hell no, I'm not doing that? Like something, and we'll talk about values next because I want to get into that because I think it has to still align with like who you are and what you care about and all these great things. But do you ever get
Right.
a project where you're like, yeah, no?
Yeah, I joke that I'm a sellout. I'm like, I don't know. I really do take on anything if the price is right. Yeah, I'll probably
Mm-hmm.
charge more for something if I think it's boring or like
Sure.
not my kind of work. Or but yeah, if the money is there, I'm take
Fair
it.
enough.
So that's where I do bounce around stylistically a little bit more than other artists because I'm pretty commercialized.
Sure.
It's not typically like about my
Style.
artistic voice. Yeah.
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 I think that's maybe your branding background showing through. Is
Hmm.
like being able to be the chameleon. Like I still feel like if I saw a Pandr mural, I'd be able to call it out of a lineup because I think you still do have a style.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting conversation of like how much do you let yourself as the artist like bleed into the work versus do you feel like you're truly removed? Because I kind of feel the same way too, where I'm like, oh, I feel like all my projects look so different, and then everybody's like, no, we knew it was yours. I was like, oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Dang it!
Exactly. Like we all think they're like drastically different, but
Of
yeah,
course,
that's always the case. Yeah, it's something that I know a lot of artists beat themselves up about and like they get really scared to do anything different. Like they
yeah.
really want to go hardcore down this one style, which I'm like, no, I don't care about that at all.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it keeps you more flexible and it's the challenge is in the variety, at least for me,
Hmm.
is like, okay, what does it look like to adapt to this different space instead of just be a one trick pony and do the same thing all the time.
Right.
But then again, riches in the niches, right? Like a lot of artists get very well known for doing one thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, which I couldn't do that. I think I would go crazy.
Yeah, same, 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 same. The other thing making us crazy this year, glorious year of 2025, is the
Shout
chaos
out.
that
Yeah.
is social media, politics, and just being a business owner in late stage capitalism. I'm very vocal about our values in our team and what we care about and how we serve our clients best. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't like very concerned about the state of social media and the state of censorship, of misinformation, disinformation, AI. Like there's a lot in the water. What are the things that keep you up at night that feel different this year than last year? Rage. Should we just rage scream into the microphone first? And
Everyone
let it all out.
collectively scream.
Just
Yeah.
scream. Stop
Yeah.
what you're doing. Scream. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it is really terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we knew this was coming as of November 6th or whatever election
Mm-hmm.
day was, but I still didn't know it was going to feel this bad so
Mm-hmm.
soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I think the TikTok ban,
Yep.
air quote ban,
Political theater.
really
Yeah.
really set it off, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like it's scary. So that scared me. I guess like initially I was pissed off seeing like a lot of people like, oh, good, like that app was stupid anyways, and I'm like, again, you guys don't realize like this is people's livelihoods. Like so many
Uh-huh.
people have
Mm-hmm.
built their business on there, like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Absolutely.
don't actually, I'm curious how many clients tend to get from TikTok versus Instagram and others?
Yeah, we in 2020 was the biggest year for our business as far as like branding exposure and social media growth. It's like everyone was home, everyone was like, okay, I guess I'm going to start this side business. Our prices
Hmm.
were low. Like I think I was doing branding for like $1,800, like
Hmm.
pretty low. But we did 41 brands in a year, which is like
Holy
basically a
shit.
brand every single week. No
Yeah.
breaks. But also I had no social life and I wasn't traveling anywhere. So it was like really easy to be like, well, I'm just going to really do this. And I'd say of those, like 95% of them came from TikTok. And this is when my like brand design in 60 seconds series was kicking off, like got up to
Yep.
75,000 followers, like had a really incredible run for a while. And then since then, I'd say we're still at probably, I'd say like 60 or 70% of our leads are coming from TikTok. The leads aren't as qualified as the leads that are coming from Instagram. So someone who's followed me on Instagram has followed me on Instagram for almost a decade, right? And they're like, I've
Right.
just been waiting for the chance to work with you. I know your process. I know your work. I know your stuff. I know what you charge, da da da. The TikTok audience, I think, is a bit more because you're just being like chaotically exposed to people you don't follow. If there's an interest
Right.
there, they fill out the contact form without like reading the fine print, and then it ends up on a discovery call where there's not enough budget, or they don't understand, or there's just like there's too much. So
Right.
again, as far as like conversion goes, and my sister the same way, like destination wedding planner, same thing. Like she tracks all of her inquiries, where her inquiries come from, and like her TikTok leads, although she gets high volume, they're not as qualified as leads that are coming from other socials. But for just organic visibility, TikTok has been huge. Like
Right.
I live stream on TikTok multiple times a week. Like being able to post the podcast clips, being able to connect with creators, like picking up on trends.
Right.
Like it's to me, it's so much more interesting than Instagram. And I love Instagram. Like I think you and I are of the generation of like building a business on
Yeah.
Instagram in 2017 and 2018 was like the gold rush era, right? Like you just had this untapped potential to be able to create a professional presence for yourself on that platform.
Right.
I don't feel that reach is there anymore because I think
Hmm.
that the shoppable ads and the paid posts is just like I can go on my personal Instagram and not see a single post from a single person, human being that I know. You know what I mean? And that's disheartening to me. And
Yeah.
it's not that I'm seeing content from people I'd like to follow. It's I'm seeing content from meme accounts. Like
Yeah.
that I don't
Exactly.
care. Like I don't, it's not, there's nothing personal about it anywhere. So that's kind of our spiel, TikTok, Instagram, but I'm curious where you land on all of that.
Yeah, I actually don't get any leads at all from TikTok. I've also
Interesting.
fallen off from posting on there as much
Yeah.
just because I've been depressed about things. And so I'm like, what's the point? But I get most of my leads from Instagram. So I've still been going strong on there, although morally it feels icky.
Yep. Yep.
So I know I have to post on there to keep my business alive, but it doesn't feel good. And so I'm just kind of feeling like, all right, if I'm going to post on Instagram, I'm going to post about things that make me happy, and I'm not going to feed into too much of their bullshit. So
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I heard it worded kind of interestingly the other day about like, it's like the new like feudal system. Like we're
Yes.
paying, yeah, we're
Mm-hmm.
paying taxes to them. Like the data, our data is the land tax that we're
Mm-hmm.
paying to be a part of their apps. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
all feels really gross.
I mean, it's the thing of like, if anything is free, you are the product, right? So
Hmm.
if there's an application that is free to use, like you are being sold or manipulated in some type of way because like these are for-profit companies. Like Meta is
Right.
a for-profit business. So a big part of the conversation that we're having with our clients that are small business owners, we're helping them with social media is like, okay, we saw with TikTok that if you had all your eggs in the TikTok basket, that basket falls and drops. Granted, it came back in like 12 hours, but that's
Hmm.
now a very real threat. Like just like you wouldn't invest all your investment in one stock, right? Or you
Hmm.
wouldn't, if you were trying to like eat healthy, only eat carrots. Like that just isn't going to work for you. Like we've got to diversify your sources of income, just like you diversify anything else, right? So it is that like taxing thing that if you popped off on TikTok, that now you have, yeah, you do have to pivot. But also, like, who's to say that that audience even is really going to, if TikTok does go away, that they're even going to be back on Instagram? That's not really guaranteed either because
Yep.
Mark Zuckerberg goes on Joe Rogan and says all this bullshit about like, oh, how workplaces have become too feminine and we need to bring back masculine aggression in business and his chain and his like poodle perm hairdo. And you're just like, ah, someone posted, I saw a meme I saw that was like, I knew someday that nerds were going to take over the world, but I didn't know they'd be this fucking lame. So funny. So it's hard. It's hard, right? Because like Instagram threads, which I'm loving threads, Instagram threads and Facebook are all meta products. Like
Hmm.
hard to get out of there. Where do you see yourself connecting with your audience, people who want to pay you, want to follow you, want to work with you, if Instagram meta slash TikTok didn't exist? What's your game plan? Zero.
Cold, cold emailing, as I've been always doing. Like,
I really see you
yeah,
like a street corner with a spinning sign.
yeah. I
Like I
think I
feel
like
like
that
that could
idea.
work. I feel like that could work.
No, I literally don't know. Like, I dabble on Pinterest. I don't
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself? I mean, you have a podcast, but like,
The podcast
yeah.
definitely helps because the podcast gets published on YouTube and YouTube ends up as search term optimized stuff because YouTube is owned by Google,
Hmm.
which is like also not lovely.
Yeah.
So there's just kind of nowhere to go. And it's a lot to ask your audience to go to a new platform. Like it's a lot
Right.
to ask. Like I was entertaining for a while, like switching up Kiss My Aesthetic Facebook group and being like, okay, guys, where are we going next? Because renting from this landlord feels gross. I hate this landlord.
Yeah.
They're mean, they're yucky, they don't support the things that I like, and they're just going to continue to make this house worse. So where can we build a new house? And it's hard because then you're breaking, like there's not the attention on the other platforms the way that there are on these
Yeah.
ones that have been around for 10 years.
I downloaded Blue Sky.
Yeah,
I dabble on there, but it's hard. It's
it
totally
is.
hard starting from scratch.
It is hard starting from scratch, but it also doesn't mean it can't happen, right? Like we had
Hmm.
Clubhouse for all of like 10 minutes
Yeah,
and that
that's
was
true.
huge. That was huge. And then that went away. Like Vine
Hmm.
came and went. Like there are these platforms that like come and go, but it does make you nervous as a business owner. Like we were saying, like especially when you're responsible for team members or accountants or bookkeepers or keeping the lights on and buying paint and being able to get a body massage when you when you do a really large scale mural, right? Like there's these things that you're like, oh shoot, like this feels a little scary right now.
Okay, that is where I'll plug more about like cold emailing. I've always
Please.
been
Oh,
obsessed with it.
please.
And
Yes.
I was, yeah, and then that's something that's not kind of tied to an app, I guess. Like you use Gmail, but
Yeah, sure.
uh so yeah, I have a couple 5 and 6 figure estimates out right now because I've
Nice.
been cold emailing yeah, just continuing to cold email my ass off, and that feels good. It feels like you bring the control
Productive.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you approaching cold emailing? Because I struggle with it from a branding perspective. This is on our team's like bingo goals list this year is to do more cold pitching because
Yeah.
to tell someone that they need new branding is like telling them that they're ugly and they need a makeover. And I know you're doing it from like a more murals perspective, which is like is a lot easier of a sell. But
Right.
how has your pitching process evolved? How much research are you doing beforehand? Like, what is the actual pitch, like the benefit, the ROI that they're going to get from spending on that mural?
Right. It's different for everyone, and it's hard for me to be psychic and know what
Of
they're
course.
needing or wanting. So I kind of go in really vague, and like I'm not trying to necessarily solve their problems in just that initial email. I was just thinking for you though, like reaching out to PR agencies or
True.
the hospitality groups that are constantly building out new brands.
True.
a PR agency works with all sorts of companies or a marketing agency, and like they might not necessarily have their go-to graphic designer on hand.
Good
And you
point.
do web too. Like I feel like
Yeah.
everyone needs web. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be the easiest sell, I'm sure.
Yeah. So maybe it's not so much pitching to the company, but pitching to the referral network. That
Right,
makes a lot of
right.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're touching a bunch of brands, and who knows within that, like who needs your services. So that's
So for you, is that
easier than
like
just a
reaching
one-off.
out for you? Is that like reaching out to commercial developers then? Like who are the
Yeah.
builders? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, so they're constantly building new properties, multifamily housing developments, or if they're commercial developers like shopping centers. But kind of related to your point, like I reached out to a dental marketing agency in San
Oh,
Diego
cool.
last year, just thinking like, oh, maybe they'd want something for their office, or I don't know. And but I'm not going in saying like your office is ugly.
Yeah, of course.
You,
Of course, of course.
but you just never know what people need. And so, but yeah, it turned out that like one of the designers there was able to put me in touch with two different pediatric dentist offices that were currently being built out that
Nice.
needed or wanted murals. No one really needs a mural, but
I mean,
yeah, they wanted that. So it was a nice little referral system in that sense.
okay. No, this is helpful. And you sell
Yeah.
resources for cold pitching through your
I
website.
do.
Tell
Yeah.
us about
In my
those.
shop brew. So yeah, I have a template of what you're supposed to say, what you should put in your presentation, because we're creatives, you want to attach a beautiful presentation of your work. And people always ask me like, what do I put in that if I don't have any murals or, professional projects under my belt? It's like mock-ups are totally fine.
Mhm.
Or I certainly had fake murals and mock-ups in my portfolio when I was first starting out. Or murals I painted in my own house or my friend's house, electrical boxes, like any like little things that you can do. But yeah, having that PDF presentation that just sells yourself is really important. And then
Mhm.
attaching that and then a short and sweet email. So yeah, you can download that if you need help with
I
anything.
feel like too cold pitching is a lot of letting go of your ego in the
Hmm.
response because you are reaching out. You don't know if somebody really needs what you're offering them
Oh yeah.
yet asterisk. They may come back around, which I know has happened to you. It's happened to me as well. It's like, but how do you get yourself over the imposter syndrome or the overwhelm of being like, this person could be really pissed that I emailed them? Because I get so many bad pitches in my email.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, and especially when someone wrote me the other day an email that said, "Hey, dude," and I was like, "Dude, like, really?"
Ew.
I was like, "I'm completely disinterested in your services now." Like,
Yeah.
it was,
Gross.
"Hey," the subject was, "Hey, man," or, like, the first, like, the greeting, "Hey, man," and I was like, "No,
Ew. What were
goodbye."
they even selling?
Like, optimization, YouTube optimization services.
Yeah.
I
No,
was like,
thank you.
"Get out of here. Get lost."
See you later.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I basically am just like dead inside, and I just assume everyone's gonna hate hate me.
That was not the answer I was expecting. It was like, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
I expect the worst and hope for the best. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, no one's ever usually saying anything mean to me. They're just like,
yeah,
"Oh, sorry, not interested."
right.
I mean, the most like unfriendly would be like unsubscribe, period. But that's the worst of it.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure.
So nothing too bad.
Yeah, nice. Well, this was awesome per usual. We're definitely gonna have to point people to the direction of all your resources and your pitching. For manifestation purposes, what kind of projects are you looking to land this year? Just so we even have it on recording and we can help put it out in the universe.
Yeah, I would love one of these six-figure projects to go through.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, like the big side of a parking garage would be
Mm.
lovely. Just like multi-stories. I want to paint big.
You want to be on more scissor lifts and scaffolding? Are you sure?
I know, I know. I like, again, what I'm putting out there is different than what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all over the place, but it's just impressive and it's fun. And
Yeah.
like the bigger, like to see your work that big is just
Big.
so satisfying.
Satisfying. Oh, I got like the
Yeah.
smallest taste of it because our client just installed like their signage in La
Yeah.
Jolla.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm gonna drive here every week and just look at it. Like it
It
is
looks
really
so
cool.
cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's
It's so
so cool.
satisfying to see like an actual physical manifestation of your digital work. Cause like I drew that on my
Totally.
iPad, like, and then it was digitized. Da, da, da. But yeah, I've got to imagine that's a really exciting part of being a muralist.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could totally get into that world too. Like designing vinyl murals are
Yeah.
like I get asked to do that a lot.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, definitely play it up when you're pitching all the different options.
I know I need to create the next thing on my list is to create a postcard to drop off to every other business on that whole street and be like, hi, I did that. Hi, that was me. Hey, how's it going? Hey, do you need logos? Like, here, this is what I can do. You got to pass by it every day on your way to work. That
Exactly.
part too, Cool.
I would totally think you're going to get inquiries from that. It looks so clean, so beautiful.
So clean. And her shop is going to be amazing. So shout out to Lily Parr, little plug in La Jolla,
Shout
right there on
out.
Girard. Right. It's like the location is amazing. It's right when you're pulling it like into Girard where that Vaughn's is. It's like the next building over.
Okay.
And I was like,
Okay,
oh, this
sweet.
is stellar. Yeah. Well, thank you so
That's
much, Phoebe. Where
awesome.
can everyone find you, follow you, take advantage of some of these great resources that you have, and maybe see some of your murals?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. You can follow me at Pandr Design Co on Instagram, at Phoebe Cornog on TikTok, and pandrdesignco.com.
And watch us yell into our phones and scream on the internet if all of
Yeah.
that goes away, right? With the current political climate.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
a few screams.
A few screams. All good. Well, thank you so much for your time. You guys, if you love the episode, don't forget to send it to someone, share it, save it, leave a comment, reach out to Phoebe, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much. See ya.
Bye.